A couple million feet all cash, baby. I eat a little cheese and a rash, baby. I eat a little cheese like snack, baby.
What's going on, YouTube? Back with another video. Today is episode 5 of the series Breaking Through Mental Health with Lamar Thornton. I'm so excited to have him on here because he is a Division I men's basketball coach. So just to give you a little background on him, he just finished his second season as an assistant coach with Ohio University men's basketball team. In 2015, he was assistant coach at one of the top prep schools in the country, Hargrave Military Academy, where they had a 47-1 record and captured its third national championship in school history. He served as a graduate assistant and video coordinator at the University of Toledo during the 2016-2017 season. The next year, he was assistant coach at Stony Brook University. It's going to be real interesting to hear what he has to say because we're going to get the inside scoop of how it is mentally in men's basketball at the college level. I feel like men's basketball has this stereotype where they're always tough. They need to be tough, but they need to be macho. They need to essentially act manly in college basketball. So for episode 6, we got Lamar Thornton. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Like I said before, you're the first men's coach on here, so make sure that you're stepping up your game.
I'll try to.
Okay, so just talk a little bit about yourself. Your background.
So this is going on year 3 at Ohio University under head coach Jeff Bowles. Prior to that, I was at Stony Brook University under Jeff Bowles as well for 2 years. And prior to that, I was a GA at Toledo University or University of Toledo. And then prior to that, I was at Hargrave Military Academy for a year. So I was at Hargrave for a year, Toledo for a year, Stony Brook for 2 years, and going on year 3 now at Ohio University.
Oh, okay. So through your experience as a coach, as a GA, why do you think there's this stigma on mental health in the sports industry?
I think the biggest reason why there's a stigma, because athletes feel isolated once they actually start to talk about their concerns or a problem that they're having or anything that's related to mental health. I think the other thing is they feel ashamed. They feel like it's a burden to share what they're going through and how they're feeling. And I think the biggest thing is there's a lack of understanding from others. So assistant coaches or head coaches or even players, even of a strength coach or academic advisor, whoever that they're with on a daily basis. I think there's a lack of understanding from that supports system. So they feel the need to not share it. I think another thing is they feel weak. They don't feel as, tough or strong, that macho feel, and I think when you're going through the recruiting process, and I tell our kids or the players we build relationships all the time, it's like on your worst day, can you find happiness at this university? And you find happiness from a community, from the culture, from the people that you're around on a daily basis. So it's like, hopefully you make your decision based on that. So I think the biggest thing is that they just feel isolated. They don't have that level of comfort to communicate, and share how they feel with someone else.
Mm-hmm. So have you yourself felt that way? You said the macho thing, and a lot of people want to, feel macho and not weak. So have you yourself felt that way in the past dealing with anything really related to mental health?
I think we all do, right? I think at some point in our lives, either if it's work related or family related or social life or relationship, I think at some point we have some type of burden, and we feel like we're kind of getting water's going above our head and we're feeling drowned in something. So I think everyone feels that way. And I think the best way for us to really deal with it is kind of taking a pause, and recalibrate your mind and, taking a break from something. And I think another method is just sharing how you feel with someone else. Communication, right? if you go through your daily life, you're always trying to communicate with someone about something or something that happened that was positive or a moment, and you're trying to share. But it's like when there's a burden happening in your life, I think it's imperative that you share how you feel. Maybe that person can help you through the transition process. Maybe they can help you solve a problem. But I think the biggest thing is just it takes that weight off your shoulder. You know.
Yeah. So, in your 2 years at Stony Brook University, your roles included player development, life skills, scouting, and recruiting. So, elaborate on the life skills part.
So I would so life skills for us, especially for Jeff Bowles, he is a unbelievable leader, and he's really really big on communication. Communication makes the complex simple, and that's who he is, and he's huge on positive minds and always relating positivity. So the biggest thing that I did for our guys is really getting them to understand the actual, right? Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Okay, what can you control right now? And our head coach Jeff Bowles, he's really huge on controlling the controllables. We don't care if that shot goes in or out, but we care about you being shot ready, feet ready, hands ready, mind ready. And it's very similar to life. You can't control what's happening, and if you allow your mind to do it, your mind is always thinking about could have, would have, should have, worried about the past, more concerned about the future. And it's like you have to just be locked into that present moment. And for young men or young women, it's tough to do. You feel like you have so much going on with academics and school and social life and your family and relationships. You're really you barely even know when you're going to get your next meal, right? So it's like you have your schedule is so you know it's so complex. It's like you have to just be locked into that moment. So really getting our guys to understanding the actual, being locked into that moment, lifting our players up and letting them know that they're good enough. Even if they have a bad practice, even if they had an awful shooting game, if we lost one or two in a row, if you struggled on a quiz, you failed an exam, that you're good enough. And it's like now we have to really lock in on the day-to-day process. And maybe it's something that you could do differently to help you get a better outcome. And I think the mental part of just letting them know that you are good enough, you're great, and you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail at things, but it's all about how do you respond. And I think your response is a true definition of who you are as a person. And I think the last thing is just letting our guys know that they can communicate any type of anxious thoughts that they're having.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't care what it is. And I think the biggest thing is once you have that relationship off the floor, the basketball part is really easy. So it's really more so earning their trust and just kind of getting them through from a mental standpoint on understanding the actual, letting them know that they're good enough, the communication. It makes the complex simple, and just letting them know, like, if you can lock in on those things, then being a great individual in the community is going to be a lot easier, and being a great teammate is going to be a lot easier, being a great husband and a great son or a brother, it's going to be a lot easier, even when get in the workplace. So it's just really just the transition from teenager to young adult to young adult to adulthood. So just really helping them through that transition.
All right. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw life skills as one of just a duty in general for men's basketball Division One, I was surprised. I don't know. Maybe I'm definitely biased or stereotyping, but I don't know. I expected Division One men's basketball to just always be so intense and kind of disregarding. I wouldn't say disregarding mental health, but just emphasizing toughness. So that really surprised me, and I really like that. So
I'll say something too, and a lot of it is because of our head coach, like Jeff Bowles. He's a guy that he wants our guys sharp in the community, and if they don't know what sharp in the community means, he's going to educate them. He's going to get. We had police officers come in and talk to our guys. We had financial investors come in and talk to our guys. How do I save money? How do I what's a 401k? What is my credit score? And just simple stuff like that. I mean, we know now because we're adults, but some of our kids, they just didn't know, and it's just really just educating them for the real world stuff that you really don't think about being a basketball coach, but you think about it once you graduate. you played 4 years. Say you don't go and play at the professional level, or say you do and you're done. It's like, okay, how do I maneuver through life now? Well, I
Mhm.
didn't know this, and it's like we're just trying to educate them through the process. And if they don't know, I mean, we educate our guys no matter what the topic is, no matter what the situation is. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we do, or I think any coach can do, is just educate your student athletes.
So obviously you had a really good experience at Stony Brook in terms of that. And so with the other schools that you were at, did you have that same, experience? How was mental health viewed, generally speaking, in your experience as a coach in Division 1 basketball?
I think the last couple of years, right, it's just been starting to hit mainstream for people now. I think more coaches and programs are starting to lock into it because I think social media, right? And I think when NBA players are now tweeting out, or they make a post, or there's an article that comes out, I think now in today's era, it's giving student athletes another avenue to express how they feel rather than just going to someone, and I think you have to be aware of it, and you have to be sensitive towards it. I don't think it's something you can just scroll or just not pay attention. It's something that you need to address now. And not only worrying about can they make a certain percentage from this, and can they make this skill. I think the mental health piece is huge. That's a day-to-day thing, and it changes every day. Our moods change every day, and I think our players' attitude and their behavior. Once you see a change, it's like, okay, something's happening, and let's address it. And it could be something as small as to my cat passed away to something as big that's kind of life changing. And it's like, whatever it is, let's communicate it, let's address it. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I want you to know whatever you're going through, I know you can handle it, but I don't want you to handle it alone.
Mm.
So you having this conversation, or us communicating, that doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. So I think from watching players, because I've had the opportunities to see athletes at the high school level, AAU, prep school, Division 1, and I've been in different situations where I've been a coach, I've been a GA, I've been an assistant, and I think the biggest thing, I think players just they get burnt out, and as a coach, I think it's imperative that you know when your players are burnt out and what burns them out. And once you see it and you identify it, it's like, okay, taking a day off of basketball, or switching up the practice plan, or having a team event, or just getting the guys, that need to sit down individually with you. That could be that recalibration. It's like, okay, pause, let's figure this out so we can get back on track. And I think so. The biggest thing that I've noticed is just players, they actually get burnt out. I think mentally they get burnt out, physically. It's dwelling on them. And I think great coaches, they're really diligent in regards to the logistics of how they schedule their year, how they maneuver through practice. And I've learned a lot of that from just watching Jeff Bowles the last so years, from just working with him. He does an unbelievable job with that. So I would definitely say that just watching players getting burnt out and just being able to have the maturity and um, throwing the ego aside and say, what, our guys, they need to recalibrate, and we need to take a pause.
Your answer kind of leads to this next question, which is perfect. So, have any players reached out to you in terms of their mental health? Like, hey, coach, look, I don't, feel good. I'm not happy. I think I'm depressed. Either way, what's your response to that? Like, how would you approach that situation as a coach?
For sure. I think that happens not just even with me. I think it happens across the board. I think number one, you have a conversation with them, or actually, I'll take that back. Great assistant coaches, they try to put fires out beforehand,
Mm.
right? So you should be able to notice some type of behavioral change, right? You should be able to notice something. I think that's number one. And there's some situations where you don't, right? And you just kind of get blindsided and you get surprised by things. And okay, once that happens, I think number one, you need to have a full conversation with that athlete, and then you need to try to, share what that information that they told you, either with your sports psychologist, that's with the school, your superior, which is like your head coach, your staff. So everyone needs to be on the same page. So now it's just not me knowing what's going on with, player A. It's like head coach, the every assistant, the ops, the video coordinator, the academic advisor, the strength and conditioning coach, the athletic trainer. So now when we have these interactions, necessarily I don't have to say anything to you, but actually, now the athletic trainer, when he's taping your ankle before practice, he's giving you words of encouragement. He's uplifting you. He's hammering it without even, he's being very subtle about it. Or when you're in the weight room, that strength coach is putting something, positive in your life, and, in your ear that you need to hear. So I think it's more of an inclusive thing. So it's like once you have that conversation with that student athlete, and you guys are trying to solve a problem, and you're trying to maneuver through the burden, whatever it is, it's like, okay, now what's your plan of action? And one person can't handle that. I think that needs to be a family, that needs to be a community, because clearly, that player feels isolated. I think, the player feels overwhelmed, feels, burnt out, feels drained, whatever the situation may be. So I think that's a really good way on going about that.
Okay. Yeah, so like clearly you're there for your players, but then I feel like the coaches, on the other hand, they have even higher standards. You have to come to your job, do what you got to do, and then you leave. But you have to come, do your job. So like in your case, have you gone through any personal challenges mentally as a coach?
I would say yes. I think, and I would imagine many coaches do, right? And you're trying to juggle your life, you're trying to juggle your family and your family's relationships, and you're trying to juggle, how, the 13 scholarship players that you have, and you're trying to juggle, okay, your opponent, you're trying to juggle everything that your players have going on, and you have family obligations, right? And so I think trying to handle all of that, I think that it creates, for anyone to get burnt out, or for any coach to be stressed at certain parts of the season, and feel overwhelmed. And I think, while coaching, I think there's there's a level of management, you have to be able to deal with, and you're going to obviously have sacrifices. And coaching's not a it's not a some people call it a lifestyle. I just think it's more of a rhythm, right? So, different parts of the season, your schedule is going to be more intense. So, okay, your time management in regards to getting the proper sleep, and you know finding different avenues to release, all the tension that you have. It could be yoga, it could be working out, it could just be stretching, it could just be having a moment of time where it's just, you're trying to process everything you have for the day. It could be just writing, writing in a notebook, which for me, it's working out, it's, walking my dog, it's writing stuff down on a daily basis, just kind of waking up and, all right, what is happening, you know what needs to happen, okay, and how are you going to enjoy the moment right now. And I think, for me this year, it was during our conference tournament run, and then it was, going to the NCAA tournament, and then it was winning a game in the NCAA tournament, and then going to your next game in the round of 32. And it was like, how are you handling all of this, all of these emotions yourself? Okay, then you got to try to manage that for your players. And then it's like, okay, you got to prepare for the next game. Okay, but you really want to celebrate this game you just had. And it's like, it's like you feel overwhelmed. It's like, all right, you just need to sit down. You got to take a break, recalibrate. And it's like, breathe in. And, it's just, I think it's something that everyone needs to do. But yeah, coaching is tough. It's not for everyone. And it's, I think the biggest thing is just kind of really locking into that present moment.
Mhm. I think oftentimes too, even for myself, I feel like we forget that coaches are human too. And so, because I know coaches are held to higher, standard, and some of the things that we do, it's on you. It's not really on you, but like it's unspeakable. It's just kind of like on you type thing. So, so how was mental health viewed? A few years back when you were like a GA, for example. Because it's been a few years in between that. So, how was the topic of mental health viewed back then compared to now?
Honestly, I would say back when I was a GA, which for me was 2016 through 2017, and even prior to that, when I was at Hargrave Military Academy, um, I wasn't as educated in on the topic, right? So for me, I would hear about it, I would read about it, um, but I didn't dwell into it until, for me personally, until I got to Stony Brook. And when I got to Stony Brook, I know Coach Bowles was really, 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 passionate about educating not only his players but his staff in regards to uh, mental awareness and everything that comes with it. And okay, how do we solve it? How do we help our players transition? So I would say until I got to Stony Brook, um, I wasn't as educated, um, in the topic of, um, you know, being positive and, you know, really emphasizing that communication piece and, sharing your burden and helping your players get through this process. And you guys are doing it together. So, I really appreciate Coach Jeff Bowles for doing that for me.
That's good. I know a lot of coaches can't say that, and but you lived it and you had a great experience with that coach in specific. So, why do you think athletes are scared to come forward to their coaches about, their mental health?
I think the biggest thing is that I think they feel weak by doing that, like I said earlier. And I think another thing too, um, kind of goes back to what I said, is, I feel like those, I feel like players feel like we don't care enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how small or big it is, I don't think you can really, size that up. You can't really size a burden up. So, um, I think student athletes, they feel like, what, my coach, he's not worried about that. So I think everything on the back end of already earning your players' trust and having that relationship, you shouldn't just talk to them when things aren't going well. You should be talking to them every day, and you're trying to prevent, them from even feeling like that. Um, trying to talk to them about being, locked into the present and understanding the actual, and letting them know every day that you're more than enough. And there's going to be good and bad in every situation, and there's a positive in everything, and you gotta search for it, because if you don't search for it, you'll it's so easy to recognize the bad.
It takes work.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think you just take one day at a time and understand that today's meaningful. um so I think I would say that.
Okay, so you kind of answered the next question a little bit, but for those who are scared, what's the best plan of action to come forward to their coaches about their mental health?
I think the best plan is to know that your coach cares, and to have that conversation, and to understand that they want to have that conversation with you. And once you share your burden, you're going to feel better, and it's going to help the process in regards to trying to solving that problem, and getting everyone on the same page with on how you're feeling. Because if everyone can be on the same page on how you're feeling, now they can help manage
Yeah.
this issue with you.
Mm.
Um, so I think the communication piece is huge. I think the communication piece is huge. I think sharing your problem, sharing how you feel, is the right way to go.
I mean, it's hard to fix something if you don't know the root of the problem. So, As a final question, what's your advice to athletes, coaches, trainers, anybody in the sports industry? What's your advice for those who are struggling with a mental health disorder?
I think the my advice is trying to understand the why, and if you can't understand the why, keep trying to understand it, and understand that players do get burnt out, and once that happens, taking a pause, I think is always, I think it's always healthy, and that sharing how you feel and expressing how you feel does not make you weak. You shouldn't be in isolation ever, and you shouldn't have any shame on expressing how you feel. And I think the last part is just understanding the actual, and don't focus on the past, don't focus on what's going to happen, just focus on the now. Focus on the now and understand there's positivity in everything.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I know with you being a Division I coach, men's basketball, Division I level, it's pretty special. So appreciate you coming through.
No problem, no problem. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me.
And there you go, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed episode 5 of the series, Breaking Through Mental Health. What I like about this series is the similarities and also the diversity. So we got pro players, we got ex-players, we got coaches, we got strength coaches, we got current basketball players. So they all come from, different backgrounds, but they all share similar things when it comes to mental health. So kind of exposing that and talking about it proves that you're not alone. It shows that we can conquer this stigma that mental health has in the sports world. And it shows that even the greatest people in our eyes that are successful have suffered or still suffer with their mental health. Episode 6 will be another great episode because I will be interviewing a current NCAA Division I basketball player. You already know what comes next. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you underdogs later.
I'm breaking chains. Yeah. Tell me feeling bubbly off the rose. Friends turn to foes, haters tell them go away. Rappers making shiggy dance like a soul train.